All right, and here we are. We're ready to rock. Tremors
Yes.
Live number 9. Yeah, we're here for another one here. And what's going on, Chris? How you doing today, man? You ready for this one tonight? We got a good
I
one.
am, man. This is going to be good, man.
Yeah,
The unique thing about Tremors is that we have covered so much different ground.
yeah.
And here we come once again covering more different ground with I don't think we've had straight power metal like Death Dealer, have we?
I don't think we have, right? No, I think we've had, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't think we have. No,
Think
it's
so.
a lot of classic metal stuff,
Yeah.
We had
Modern metal. We
modern
haven't
metal.
had Seven Dust last time, and
Mhm.
and and not to look far ahead, 30 seconds into this show, but next week we're doing kind of the hardcore punk vibe.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
we continue to set our own course, I guess.
Yeah, we're all over the place, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's just great. We don't give a shit. We're just if we like it, and we want to, pump it up, and we'll bring it on. It's just plain simple, plain simple as that.
Well,
And yeah,
it goes to what we said when you and I had our private conversation way back in like March or April, whenever it was, about maybe starting a podcast, which was we wanted to explore stuff that we like that just isn't explored, on the traditional podcasts. We didn't want to cover Kiss anymore. We didn't want to cover, metalcore.
no,
We didn't want to cover new metal. We wanted to cover a little bit of everything. And man, we are proving that out here with Aftershocks. That's for damn.
no, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's so many out there that that you said talk about Kiss and a lot of the classic bands. Obviously we all grew up with and we all like and love and. But yeah, I mean, we wanted to obviously get a little more in depth and more. We're more about breaking some new artists too. That's what we're trying to do more than anything. I think is. I mean, obviously, yeah, we're gonna have guests on that are veterans in in the business in metal and hard rock. But we want to really start breaking some newer bands or some bands that have been around a while. That's people just don't know too much about.
Right.
And so I think that's what obviously makes it fun for us too. It's just to diversify it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I mean, we're obviously two guys who have a very wide variety of taste when it comes to hard rock and metal music or just music in general, even if it's not hard rock or metal, just rock or just music. So yeah, so it's just something that obviously that's what we love about doing that. And I think tonight's a great example of that. Especially we're starting off tonight with guitar extraordinaire Byron Nemeth. Who's been around for some time. I believe, Chris, you said you kind of know him from his days when he was back in Cleveland, correct?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
I've known Byron for a really long time, and he's had the ups and downs. He's been I've known him as a local musician. I've known him as a national musician, and I've really kind of gotten to follow along with his career. And he's an amazing player.
Yeah.
And I have quite a few questions for him actually about, how he transitions back and forth between instrumental guitar and band guitarist, because, kind of like what we talked about with Sammy Bowler 2 weeks ago, it's not the same. I don't think the casual fan appreciates how different it is to record and release a band versus recording and releasing as a virtuoso, so to speak.
Sure.
And there's a reason that the greatest guitar players ever, the Yngwies of the world or whatnot, always end up having to stick some vocalist in front of them because it's really hard to convince people of your true talent. It's hard to make that guitar be your voice.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. I think that's a good statement. Yeah.
And I mean, the greatest guitar players any of us can name have all been in bands. They've all had a voice to kind of lead people to their playing. The Eddie Van Halens, the Dimebag Darrells, the Zakk Wyldes, the Jimi Hendrix, even Jimmy Page, pick them. It doesn't matter who it is. And there's a reason that there's 2, 3, 4 monsters that are just straight players.
Yeah.
There's a reason that you name Satriani, you name Vi, then you start stretching.
You know,
and that's in history.
Yeah. Well, no, and that's the thing. And think about Vice, Etcher, and I think we talked about this one time, or maybe even last time, and those guys are out, straight from the 80s. So it's not like there's been anyone recently in the last 20, 30 years, even more, who have kind of broke out as this virtuoso who, you see. I mean, I think the hardest thing about, like you just, made a great point in terms of, it's hard to make your guitar, as a virtuoso, the voice of your music, because people are so used to and like having vocals, in order to, I guess, to pique interest from, listeners. If you are just this virtuoso who can play, a lot of times it's just not for everyone. People get bored. Yeah. They might be like, well, all right, I get it. You can play, it's great. But what, what else can you? So it's sort of, the audience for, I think, virtuoso guitarists and, having instrumental bands. It's a very, it's a unique sort of audience. I mean, who I don't know of anybody personally, including myself, that goes, oh yeah, I want to go watch this guy play live, this guitar virtuoso guy. I mean, I never do personally. Yeah. I don't really listen to too much of that stuff. I mean, of course, I respect the musicians and their talents and everything. Obviously, I was just listening to obviously Byron's music the other day. I'm like, wow. One thing that amazes me is how these guys can play all the just sit there and how they really write a whole song where their guitar is the voice. I mean, that's extremely, extremely difficult to do.
Right.
So it's so talented, but for some reason, obviously people really get attached to music. A lot of it is because of the vocals and the lyrics. So when you're not only just exclude, that's like a 2-in-1 thing. You're excluding not only the voice, but the lyrical content in it. I mean, that's just hard in general to kind of gin up a fan base. Just,
it is,
yeah.
Well, and dude, I mean, the reality is people are stupid. Let's just call it the way it is. People are stupid and they need stupid music. Think of the biggest hits of all time. All of it is rhymey, Tears on My Pillow, or Loves You. Yeah.
Happy stuff, yeah.
But it's dumb stuff. I mean, if you take the Beatles lyrics, before they became drug addicts, it was all dumb and it was all,
I want to hold your hand. Yeah.
And it was all just kind of rhymey and it was easy to do it without a voice, without the sound that people can make in their car or whatever. That's very difficult.
Extremely, yeah.
And I mean, how even just talking about it, how do you tell somebody which Eric Johnson song they want to listen to?
No, you're right. Yeah.
You got friends, you're at the bar. Dude, you got to listen to this new Satriani song. Really? Why? How does it sound different than any other Satriani song? And you don't have a reference point unless you're a real guitar guy.
Yeah.
You can't say to him, oh man, you're not going to believe the picking he does on this arpeggio. Nobody's going to get that. Most people are going to be like, huh? Give me some Motley Crue or AC/DC, stuff I can wrap my head around easily.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like you just said, fans, most of probably the fans of that kind of music are, guitar enthusiasts themselves that play. And so to them, they love, I mean, like I remember as a kid, one of my cousins, he started picking up guitar, excuse me. And that's what he started doing. He started listening to like John Petrucci, a lot of these guys, their instrumental stuff. That was his sort of thing. But then he was also, he wasn't necessarily a rock and metal fan. Right. He was more of a guitar fan. I mean, he played pop, he listened to pop. So it was like, but he did like that stuff. But at the same time, I don't think he listens to any of that stuff anymore. So it was more of a, I'm really learning guitar. I like the guitar as an instrumentation, not so much for the songs, but for the, the technicality part of it. Yeah. And I think that's the difference and so that's really the main audience for those bands and those, artists is just that, and I'm really wondering, it's the thing too, is, I mean, how often, and probably one of the reasons why we don't see a lot of those artists is they can't really survive. It's hard to survive to get up, to sell enough records or downloads or enough, merchandise to be able to, or draw enough fans to a show. I mean, it's just very difficult. Yeah.
Well, that's it. There's a reason that G3 has 10 players on it every year, or however many players.
True.
I mean, you bring the G3 brings the biggest names in that world. It's always Satriani, Vibe, Zakk Wylde,
Mhm.
You know, Eric Johnson has played a bunch of them. You know,
Yeah.
it's always the biggest names in it, and you always got to have a bunch of them.
Yeah,
And
true.
that's why, you know,
Mhm.
where meanwhile you can bring a dopey Def Leppard type of a band out there with, you know,
Oh,
simple lyrics, but
mhm.
catchy and syrupy, and you sell 15,000 tickets.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and I think Phil Collin did the last G3.
Really?
G3 play, yeah, Phil Collin, I believe, did the last G3. He's doing G3 for, I don't know, 3,000 people in each city, and he's going
Wow.
out with Def Leppard selling 18,000 seats.
Well, yeah, and there you go. I mean, if I think, yeah, and like you said, that's what I think you have to do in order, you know, for you know, guitar extraordinaires like that. Is you sort of have to, especially these days. Maybe, like I said, you know, back in the 80s, 90s, maybe a different story, but not anymore. I
Sure.
think, like you said, you've got to sort of create your own band and have multiple, you know, guitarists come together and sort of, you know,
Mhm.
yeah, do something like that, like the G3. But anyway, well,
Yeah.
let's get it. Well, we'll go ahead and get started with our first guest tonight. Here he is himself, the guitar extraordinaire virtuoso, Mr. Byron Nemeth. Byron, man, how you doing? Nice to see
Hey,
you.
how are you guys doing? What's going on?
Hey, man.
Not too bad, not too bad. How's everything where you are right now in terms of, you know, I guess, you know, I mean, I know, you know, but well, first let's go over what you've been up to. Okay, you've been obviously real busy, Byron. You've got a new single out called Engines of Thunder. That recently was released, I believe, like a month or so ago. You also are currently, I know, I saw you in the process of doing a video for the track that you've also put together, and a great new website as well. So let's just go ahead and tell us a bit about what you've been up to musically as of late. What can we expect, you know, to hear and see from you in the near future during this crazy, you know, pandemic that's been going on the last 8 months?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I just put out the single, the audio single for Engines of Thunder last month. And just last night, I got done filming the video for it. The video went really great. It was done here at Wavestream Studios in Phoenix, and it was sponsored by Sonic Boom Productions. And the video came out spectacular. And right now, we're in the middle of editing the video, and that should be released in about 2 weeks. And the hope is to put that out and just you know, get it circulating and get the music out through the video.
Awesome, man. Yeah, no, it sounds great, man. You know, and the new single, Engines of Thunder, like I said, I think it's a great song, and it's also, to me, it looks like you're doing what a lot of musicians are starting to do, which is releasing singles rather than full lengths due to, you know, obviously, I'm sure a lot of, like, you know, the short attention span that most of your average music listeners have these days. So I think it's easier to just release singles instead of releasing these full lengths, right? Because it's like people listen to them, maybe they listen to it once, and it's like, okay, what's next, right? So that's what a lot of artists are doing. Obviously, some are doing EPs as well. And you know, although it makes sense, you know, to not go full bore, you know, with a full length release for, you know, obviously the reasons I was just talking about. Do you think by going the singles route that, you know, a lot of people are doing, a lot of musicians are doing, do you think that could also possibly inhibit you from, you know, gaining a larger audience and a fan base, because it might not be enough for some listeners today where, you know, they want to, even though they don't listen to the whole album, it's like they want to see it, or else they think, well, he or she's not serious enough. They're just putting out a single here and there. I mean, I know it's a way to, obviously you got to be creative these days. So, I mean, why are you releasing singles instead of EPs or full lengths?
In my opinion, I think the music business model has changed, and this is just my observation. I think it's changed to a single versus album model, and I'd like to take that one step further and say that I think the right way to do it for the moment, you know, things could always change with technology, but and the world, but for the moment, I think what's important here is not just to release a single, but to release a video with every single. And I think that's really, really important. And in terms of it not being enough for the audience base, what's important here is to get on the schedule and to try and release a single with a video approximately, you know, every 6 to 8 weeks or so, and just do that as an ongoing cycle and never stopping. And what that'll do is that'll help the presence of the artist stay within the mindset of the audience on a continuous basis. Bands that record 12 songs, wait a whole year to record another 12 songs, they're going to get lost in the shuffle of the internet. And what's important here is to have a consistent delivery of single with video on a very consistent timeline. And I think that's for the moment, that's the proper business model, in my opinion.
Sure. Now, yeah, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here, Byron, just because and to be honest, I agree with you that it is the way that we're going. However, I think it puts you guys, and especially, not the Metallicas of the world, but the smaller bands that don't have infinite budget, it puts you guys in like a perpetual work mode because you always, you can't take a single day off where you're not working somebody to get onto their playlist or getting into their, onto their YouTube page or getting Brave Words or whatever to do a premiere. It just seems like it's taken the art, the time that you would invest in the art, and turned it into business. And for artists, especially a guy like you, who I know is artsy, it feels like it's almost forcing you to be more product based than artistic. Is that fair?
You have to be both at the same time, Chris. You really do. And you have to approach it with that mindset, because you have to deliver the art for yourself and for the audience base. But at the same time, you have to be able to a degree, realize that it's a business, and it takes up time. There's just no way around it. And you have to be involved in both capacities, full on all the time, if you really want to do it. No one is forcing anybody to do it, but if it's in your heart to do it, and if you're an artist and like yourself, we're both entrepreneurs, we're both in technology, and we both love music. If you want to do it, then you just do it, and that's where we're at in the world. It's a personal choice, and we just do it because we love it, and we do it because we're business guys. So it's both at the same time, all the time.
Right. Now for you, I find it interesting, and to be honest, I actually, I was thinking about this afternoon. I find this to be actually a better model than I think a lot of people think of, that you didn't release the video the same day that you released the song, because really, in a lot of ways, if you think about it, it's two different audiences. There's the Spotify music listening audience, and there's the video audience. And I don't think one correlates real well with the other. I don't think if you have a successful YouTube video these days, that's going to necessarily mean you're going to get any plays on Spotify, or vice versa. I almost think by staggering it a little bit, you actually play better into gaining fans, because you're going to, if somebody hears it on Spotify and then a month and a half later they see a video, it revitalizes the track. No matter which way they do it. And B, it doesn't seem like you put all your eggs in one basket. You realize that there's two different audiences, and you play to both on unique terms. Is that a thought process, or is it just the way it worked out for you?
You just laid out my exact game plan. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's exactly why I did it that way, because I wanted to get more traction from the same song. As an audio piece by itself, and now as a video piece coming up. That way you get a little more time, a little more traction on the exact same song. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly the right plan, for sure. Yeah. Yep. One more thing I'd like to add to to the art of it and to the business of it is besides the music, we need to have some commerce that we can try and make some money off of it, and that's why I launched my merch store.
Sure.
I launched it this summer, and I have a whole line. I'm sure you've been on my website. I'm selling hoodies, selling T-shirts that are all behind me, and and it's going well. It's going real well, actually. And I think that helps. The music, the audio, and then the video, and then the merch store, and then a pro-looking website. It's all encompassing, all into one. And now that I have investors involved with Sonic Boom Productions from Florida and here in Phoenix. It's a good overall strategy to continue doing what we're doing, continue putting out singles and videos on a timely manner as we move towards a situation where we can begin thinking about touring probably sometime next summer or next fall, give or take a little on where this pandemic sits with all of us.
Sure. Byron, so many, musicians, obviously, these days, they try their best to encourage their fan base to buy their physical product. But yet, it's just so hard to beat and compete, with having a virtual jukebox on your phone to play music when and where you want it.
Right.
In your opinion, I mean, what, if anything, can artists do these days in order to compete with that type of convenience? Because, I mean, in the end, the labels will always, they'll always be fighting to get their piece of the pie, and you're not going to get any help, obviously, from the streaming service, as we're seeing with, through Spotify, obviously. So it's sort of up to the artists themselves to sort of put their collective, feet down and just say, hey, listen, enough is enough, even though at this point in time, unless you're a really well-established artist, you can't really do that. If you want to obviously get your music heard, you almost have to have them on those streaming services. What do you think artists can do these days to kind of compete with that the model that is out there right now?
You have to be a total entrepreneur, and you have to find investors. That's the answer.
Simple. Yeah. Okay.
That's the answer. You
Sure.
have to come to that realization that this is a complete DIY situation, and you have to bring in sponsors, and you have to hunt down investors, no different than starting any other business. And you have to be able to have the gumption, the will, and the desire to do that. And I think that's the answer, because you're always going to have the desire to create music. That half is always playing, it's always on, and will always be on. But you have to bring in a situation where you're your own label, and you keep upping that ante and keep going with it. And that's the answer. I don't see any other scenario, because I don't see a major label helping out any one of us. I just don't see that as reality. I think that's total fantasy, actually. I mean, theoretically anything could happen, but it's highly, highly unlikely. It really is.
Byron, what are they investing in? Are they investing in you, the entrepreneur? Are they investing in the business or the talent? Is I guess what my question is, because it's doubtful they're investing in both. They're usually going to say, well, you're super talented, we'd like to have you on our roster, or you really got the gumption to make this work, we're going with that. So in your experience, what are they investing in?
Actually, it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
Yep. And it's starting with this video that I shot last night, and we're gonna pursue it and see where it goes with myself and Sonic Boom, and it's off to a great rip-roaring start. Video was super professionally shot. We spent a lot of time with it. I got there about 10 a.m. in the morning. We didn't finish till 7 o'clock at night. We were shooting the whole time, and we got a lot of great shots. And we're just gonna take it one day at a time with super focus and a great schedule, and just see where it goes. And I feel very excited about it. So it's a little bit of both, Chris, to answer your question at the moment.
Cool. Yeah, well, we are seeing, like, for instance, we've got the guys we have up next that are coming on the on Tremors Live here, both Sean Peck and Ross DeBoss Friedman. Their band Death Dealer. I mean, what they're starting to do. I mean, this is, I guess, a lot of ways that some of these artists and musicians are pushing back. Is they're only releasing 3 or 4 songs from the record to the streaming services. And if you want to hear the rest of the record, you have to buy the product. Do you think that is a viable way to go about releasing music instead of doing singles and EPs? Or do you think just basically because streaming isn't going anywhere and because it's so cost effective and convenient for the average music listener, that they're just never going to go back to buying music like they once did and buying CDs and vinyl like they once did? I mean, do you think doing that by releasing maybe a few songs to the streaming services and by doing that and trying to sell your whole product, the whole album, do you think that's something that could possibly work?
I think that's entirely dependent on where the fan level sits with whatever particular artist. If a band or an artist can reach fans that would qualify as super fans, and that's rare, then a super fan will buy anything. They'll buy vinyl, they'll buy cassette, they'll buy 8-track. But the trick is, can an artist, any unknown artist, can they reach fans, and then can they make the fans super fans? And that requires an incredible amount of work. Amount of work. So to answer your question specifically, I think the answer is yes, but you have to get them to be super fan status, and that takes a long time. First fan status, then super fan status, and then you can start, potentially, thinking about maybe selling CDs, selling vinyl. But I think in the early stages, and we're talking unknown artists here, we're not talking Metallica. In the early stages, where any unknown artist is at, I think the model that I described of audio first, then video, and then doing that in staggered fashion is the best way to do it for sure, because that way your resources can be pooled into, doing videos. And I think that's really where it's going to bring in the early fans, assuming, of course, you have very, very strong material.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. That sounds great. I just want to get off the business part here. I'm going to go now to, obviously talking about your music. And what I've noticed, obviously, you're someone who's been in, obviously, full bands, and but you also do your solo, your solo music and your solo projects in terms of, like I said, you're a virtuoso type of guitarist and you play the instrumental type of music. And what I've noticed over the years is when it comes to instrumental, whether it's hard rock or metal, is that it's not easy, to get on, obviously, very large bills or really tour packages as well with a lot of traditional hard rock and metal bands. It's obviously it's easy to get, kind of, I wouldn't say easy, but it's easier to get on a local bill. But obviously full-length tours are, very hard and rare for instrumental bands and musicians. And really instrumental artists, have sort of its own circuits, is something that me and Chris were talking about when we kicked off the show tonight. Do you personally, having been in both, do you personally prefer playing those circuits, the instrumental circuits, where your fans and the listeners are going to pay close attention, and they're going to be probably a little bit more welcoming to your music? Whereas if you're opening for like a more well-known, traditional hard rock or metal act that has vocals and has a singer, I mean, regardless of how good really as a musician you are, a lot of people, a lot of fans or that are at the show are going to sort of maybe not give that instrumental band or artist a serious listen because there's no vocals or lyrics to it.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that can be difficult at times. The way that I'm looking to resolve that is to do both instrumental and vocal music, and maybe lean on a little bit more on the vocal end of it, and maybe have the next 2 or 3 songs be vocal songs, but still occasionally do the instrumental stuff. That way, satisfy both audiences, and maybe lean a little more on the vocal end, so that we can have a little wider range for sure. And I think what's important too is for the moment, because again, things could change with technology. My focus here is on doing, really hooky, catchy songs that are about 4 minutes long, instrumentally and vocally in the near foreseeable future. I'm not thinking super epically long, epic songs, and believe me, I love them, totally love them, like I've done in the past, and those are totally great to do. And I might do one down the road, but for the foreseeable near future, I'm thinking about 4 minute songs with vocals, majority, and peppered in with a couple instrumentals to try and satisfy both audiences. And I think that's a smart way to do it.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, Byron, I'm always curious, and you're one of the few I can ask this to, because you you obviously have done bands and you've toured, and you obviously toured recently with Doro and Metal Church when you were with the Images of Eden, and was successful, and then you've gone back to doing now instrumental stuff as well as some stuff with vocal. When you're putting songs together, what tells you what to use? I know how you musicians are. Y'all never look. You can't even do an interview without holding your guitar. You can never sit down and be away, man. And you guys are constantly writing stuff, and you're constantly looking for riffs. What is it about a riff or a sound or a structure that tells you this can work as an independent song without a voice, or this needs a voice? How do you decide that Engines of Thunder did not need a voice? What goes into that thought?
That goes back to kind of like jazz studies, and just being a big fan of like Miles Davis and his great album Kind of Blue. And what I mean by that is, the way that he played, he was instrumentalist, and his playing was the voice. So there was a hook to that. And I apply that very general principle to writing my instrumentals, and I'm looking for a hook in the lead. So with this song, Engines of Thunder, I structured it with a verse section and a chorus section that were definitive, catchy hooks, if you will, with guitar lines. So it was a feeling of just wanting to make sure that we have really strong hooks in the line that's being played, and that's where it comes from. It comes from a little bit from studying jazz and a lot of just having it feel good to my ear of how I'm feeling verse versus chorus structures in a 4-minute instrumental song, and just looking for hooks basically.
Sure. Do you put consideration when you're creating, not after the fact, but when you're actually creating a song, do you put any consideration to what the song is going to be used for down the road? Do you ever think, well, I want to write something that could be the end of a chick flick or the action scene in a Fast and Furious movie, or stuff like that? Or do you just write and then kind of go where it goes once it's done?
No, I write completely artistically and just let it go. And the only small parameter I put on it is just that it'd be about on the 4-minute side of length by design. To do stuff for movies, would love to do that, but that's a whole different type of composition. For that type of composition, I would be working with a filmmaker, and we would have long conversations as to what he or she would need to be able to have in the film. So I would be composing for scenes. With this, I'm completely composing as a standalone artist. So there's a difference to that.
So it's different, and I did not know this. So it's different than the old days, I guess, of when you would get Vision Quest, and there was a bunch of songs that really had nothing to do with riding bikes or whatever Vision Quest was about, but they were by Madonna and John Wade or whatever, and it was like, okay, they're the big artists. It's a different ball game with instrumental music and movie producers.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because with like Vision Quest and like that, they were looking to bring in the famous artists, is what they were doing. But if you're not a super famous artist, you're probably working directly with the filmmaker to do soundtrack music for their film. And if they want to take my songs as is and just stick them in, I would totally welcome that. But more likely than not, they're looking for moods in specific areas, and you're soundtrack composing rather than just taking Engines of Thunder and sticking it in their film. Could happen if they wanted to. And again, I welcome it, but I think soundtrack composing, that's a specific thing for sure.
For that world, and I don't even know that you're in that world, but I don't know why I'm down this rabbit hole. But for that world, would the music that you've put out away from it, would that act almost as the primer to convince somebody that you could do music for a movie? Like, would a producer see the Engines of Thunder video and think, okay, this is a cool song, I could see where this would work on a script that I'm working on? Or do you just have to have an agent that pitches you and does it that way?
It would be a little bit of both, actually. It definitely would be a little bit of both. And what would happen, I would think what would happen is that the film producer would hear Engines of Thunder and just kind of like it as an instrumental song. And then he or she would probably approach me and say, hey, I love your song, but that particular song, Engines of Thunder, may not work with my film. Can you compose an instrumental that's a little more like this or a little more like that to fit my film with a flavor of that, but bring in other elements? And I think that's what would happen once they heard, my catalog, and or once an agent could connect me. So it's a little bit of it all, actually.
No doubt, man. Well, Byron, right now people can hear Engines of Thunder. It's the latest release from Byron Nemeth. And Byron, what can people expect, let's say, the next 6 to 12 months from you? What's coming next, and what kind of, I know you don't have an exact timeline, but what kind of timeline are you thinking of?
Yeah, well, again, in a couple of weeks here, the full video release, and you'll see that all over social media. And then, I've already started working on the next song. And again, I'm going to focus on that being a vocal song. So I'll have a group of musicians around me with a great singer for that. And that would be the next single, the next round. That would probably be sometime after Christmas, I would think. And then, we hope for a stronger, better, healthier world, and hopefully get some information on a vaccine, and try and look forward to hopefully touring this summer or in the fall, In the meantime, I'm still, working on material. We've got a lot of time on my hands, so that's what I'm doing.
Very cool. It
Awesome.
sounds like you're talking a little crazy there with vaccines and the world getting healthy, my friend.
Gotta hope for the best, right? Hope for
Sure. Yeah, no doubt.
Exactly.
Gotta stay positive.
Yep, I'm
Yeah.
with you, man.
Good point,
Well, I'll tell you what, Byron, before we let you go, why don't you throw the plugs out one more time where people can check you out, where they can buy the merch, and I suggest they do buy the merch and don't just look at it. So tell people where to go and where to buy merch and where to hear the song and all that good stuff.
Just one location, and that's at my website, byronnemeth.com. That's it. It's all there.
Awesome.
Very good, man.
Fantastic.
Well, Byron, it's all, me and you go back a zillion and a half years, man. So it's always good to chat with you, man, and good luck with it, man. I hope it does good for you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate
Take care,
it.
Byron. Take care.
Take care.
Man.
Take it easy, man. And there goes Byron. He kicked us back. All right.
All right.
There we go. We learned a lot.
All right. Yeah, that was a very interesting discussion about the the soundtracks and stuff, and if you're an instrumentalist, how they go about doing that with producers and filmmakers and stuff. Yeah, very cool. All right. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead. Why don't we just bring on our next guest since we're ready to rock and roll here. All right, and we've got with us our second guest tonight on Tremors Live, not to be confused with one of the three Tremors, which our next guest is one of. And he's here to talk about his other band, Death Dealer, lead vocalist, Mr. Sean Peck. What's going on, Sean? How you doing? Thanks for coming on with us.
Everything sucks.
Elaborate.
No, that's what I always say when the waitress comes over and goes, "How is everything?" And I go, "It sucks." And I like to see the waitresses freak out. I just trying to keep life interesting, man. If you go, "Oh, it's fine, everything's good," like, no. How's your day going, sir? It sucks. Like, shock the fuck out of people. But there's nothing I love better than talking about myself. So let's do it.
All right. Well, let's get right to it. Let's talk about the new Death Dealer record titled Conquering Lands. It's the band's third release. It's set for a November 13th release on Steel Cartel. And it's the first album in 5 years since 2015's Hallowed Ground. And I remember reading that the record, it had been in the making for some time. And obviously, most musicians and artists have plenty of that these days to complete, unfinished projects and work on new ventures that you normally wouldn't have time to do. So first off, did the pandemic, in a way, did it really help expedite the completion of the record? Did you guys ever consider holding the record back until you were able to tour for it?
Well, we were finishing it before the pandemic started. We committed to getting it done, but I think I want to go on record as being the most prolific pandemic artist in metal, because I think I've done like 70 songs since April.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm going to fire the first shot. I challenge any other metal guy. Have you done 70 songs? I don't think so. We finished the Hollow Ground album. As far as Death Dealer goes, the fourth Death Dealer album is completely finished, and we're almost done with the fifth Death Dealer album.
Oh my gosh.
So there's Death Dealer as far as the fucking eye can see.
Wow.
The new Three Tremors album is done.
Great.
The new Cage, we've got like 15 songs, and we're just trying to write more. And normally I write 12 songs and 12 songs go on the album, but we got so much material, it's like we're actually going to do what everybody else does and choose some of the best or pick the best. And then I've got another top secret band thing that has to do with former King Diamond, Merciful Fate people that I can't really talk about, and I'm working on that too. So yes, the pandemic, if you aren't a creative person and don't have a project during these times, I don't know what the hell you're doing with yourself. You can only turn on Netflix so many times and just scroll through horrible fucking movies. So I'm glad I'm a creative guy, and I'm working on I work till fucking 1 or 2 o'clock at night on shit every night. So I've been keeping busy, and there's going to be so much Sean Peck screaming heavy metal till God knows when people are going to be sick to death of me.
Hey, I'm going to push back on our account, Sean. We've done 80 plus interviews since April. So we're right there with you, man.
That's impressive, man. You guys are, I always give props to guys like you that do what you're doing is for a passion, like we do it. And that part of, the first fun part about being in a band is the performing, and then the second part is like talking to cool fucking metalheads like you guys about shit.
Nice.
Cool, man. Yeah, thanks, Wolf. Yeah, we appreciate you coming on talking to us. And there's definitely, let's talk about the record again, man. There's definitely, I think, some significant differences that on this record than from Hollow Ground. The first, obviously, is the addition of Mike LaPond, obviously from Symphony X, and Ross the Boss, who's major supergroup, even now more super with him joining the fold. The songs have more of those mid-tempo breaks that I think really allows Mike to showcase his bass guitar prowess, which to me also it makes the songs in the overall record that much stronger. So talk a bit about what Mike brought to the table on this release that may have been missing, maybe in the first two records. And was he supposed to be involved all along with this record, or was it because he had the free time and he wasn't on tour with Symphony X and all the other gazillion bands that he's in?
Well, Mike Davis, the guy from Lizzie Borden and Halford, he had like all kinds of shit going on. And at the time we thought we were going to be doing all kinds of touring and all this shit. So we're still bros with him. And he, said, hey, I don't know that I'm going to be able to do this shit. And so Ross the Boss had stolen our drummer, Steve Bolognese. And so it was only made sense for us to steal back his bass player. So, like, oh, you want to steal my drummer? Well, fucking, how about me stealing your bass player? So that's kind of how that went down. And then, like, no disrespect to any of the other bass players I work with, but man, like, LaPond is so musical. Like, it's the first time, most of the time, like, the bass tracks get done on a record, like, oh yeah, it sounds cool, and it's kind of just there. But this, man, there's all these these notes everywhere. I was just like, holy shit, he comes up with so many killer runs and killer ideas that really adds a lot to the music. So it's kind of a new thing for me, because normally I don't give a fuck about the bass. We go to band practice, like, we can't practice, we don't have the bass player. I'm like, the fuck is the bass player? The fuck is the bass player for? So I look forward to getting on stage with them and fucking looking in his eye and just going, fuck yeah, dude, let's fucking do it. So I'm really excited to have him on there, and he's already recorded all these other fucking, he's already recorded a whole nother album and then another album. So I mean, right. I got Mike LaPond fucking bass tracks in my mind, like way down the road. So yeah, great. He added a lot to it, and people were really excited about it. And the response on this record, it's kind of weird for me, because I've been sitting on these songs for so long that I'm just like, I'm trying to get excited about it. And so I went back like 2 days ago and listened to the record again. I'm like, oh, this is a fucking kick-ass record. Because I'm so into Death Dealer 4 and 5 right now.
Right.
And that Death Dealer 3, Conquered Lands, and I had to go back and I listened to the whole thing from start to finish. I'm like, okay, now I can see it from an outsider's perspective of why people are so fucking pumped on this record, because it's fucking good, man. And the reviews have been fantastic. So I'm excited.
No question. Now, Sean, you've obviously worked with several guitar players, and the two most notable, at least to me, are Conan Garcia and obviously Ross. And you've made similar kind of music with both guys, but I think that they really have distinctions that come a lot from the guitar players. Do you approach writing music and recording music the same way with each guy, or do you have a different approach when you work with Conan as you do with Ross the Boss?
Well, me and Conan are, fucking 1992, fucking soul brothers.
Right.
So there's definitely, I talk to the motherfucker every day, about football games and stupid shit. I talk to Ross all the time too about other shit. So that's a cool thing about these bands, is we're fucking bros beyond the music too. And that's how, even in the Three Tremors, how we became with Tim and Harry, is like, we like each other too, and we like hanging out and fucking joking and shit with each other. So that really, it makes it, I'm in it for the fun, man. So if I'm not having fun, then fucking forget about it. So every one of those guys is cool. But as far as writing the songs, you know, basically the way Death Dealer goes down is me and Stu Marshall, and you know, Stu Marshall and myself do a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to writing the songs, and then Ross comes in and, you know, adds his sage fucking wisdom and throws a fucking riff and the lead here and there, and occasionally he'll pull a full song, you know, down. But the three of us will get on a Skype session for like 2 straight hours.
Okay.
So it's like a jam. It's like being in the same room. You know, Stu's in Australia, Ross in New York, I'm in San Diego, and they got their guitars, and we're just going, okay, yeah, now play that part again, and then I'll go, oh, you know, and then Stu will lay it down right in the computer as we're having the jam. So we get a whole killer sounding demo, like right out of the bat, and then I'll record it. And the funny thing is, when I record all these songs with my vocals, the final, like all those songs you heard on Conquered Lands, that singing that you hear on the album is the first time I've ever sang the song. Like the first time I ever sing the song is the final recording, which is, I don't know if how everybody else does it, but that's how I do it. Like, what, you know, I think a scratch track is just a waste of fucking time. You know, I'm like, fuck it, I'm laying it down, you know, permanent. I don't want to come back. I don't need to re-sing this. This is as good as it's going to get. And, we've you know, with both the guys, we've created a really insane bond. And then the other two guitar players would be Hank Sherman and Michael Denner.
Right.
And you know, I only did 12 songs with those guys, but fuck, they were 12 incredible tracks, and it's a shame that, you know, at least Hank Sherman's not going to be. I was the perfect fucking writing partner for him, but we shall see.
Yeah. Well, and you know, that's a unique project because you know, that one seemed like it had some real legs to do something, you know, on the bigger level. And then obviously then, you know, he went back to King Diamond, which, you know, I get it, you know, in the business piece of it, you know, I get going back and working with King, but, you know, is that frustrating for you? Because I know you, I've known you for how long? I don't know, 10 years or whatever. You're a passionate fucking guy when it comes to this stuff. You know, when you write and you release, you're passionate toward it. You're not just one of these guys that's like, okay, I can sing. I'll shit out an album and move on. I know you put your heart into that, and then to have it just kind of disappear like that had to drive you nuts, no?
Yes, you know, in the middle of that whole Denner Sherman thing, those two guys got in a fight, man, and like me and the bass player were sitting there having dinner with him, and we just heard them going in Danish, like blah, 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 blah. We're like, wait, what the fuck is going on right now? Like, and we heard it like, what was that? Sherman? We're like, what the fuck? And then like they broke up, and me and the bass player were like, fuck, dude, what the fuck just happened? And then they got, you know, we got back together and played a bunch of cool shit, but you know, who knows? Like I said, I've got something else in the works in that realm of, you know, in that family of things. So they'll be, you know, salvaging what we had done in the past. But, you know, it's kind of ugly between Hank Sherman and Michael Denner right now. You know, he was supposed to be part of the Merciful Fate reunion, and King Diamond wanted to fuck him over, and it's like a fucking Judas and Jesus. It's not cool. So I'm on Team Denner as far as that goes, because I think it's but everybody that saw the reunion was like, where the fuck is Michael Denner? And they just tried to sweep it under the rug. Like it was nothing. So I call it Merciful Fake, Fake.
Nice.
Along with many others. I'm not alone in this. Yeah.
Well, I noticed, Sean, you and Stu, you did something unique that I haven't seen before. You both conducted a live stream writing session at one point.
Yeah.
Which I thought was real interesting, man. Talk a bit about that, and how did you guys come up with the idea, and how was that experience overall doing that?
That was cool, man, because we did like 2 hours.
Wow,
and, you know, we held on to a lot of people that sat through that whole fucking thing. And, you know, it's funny. We were laughing and, you know, making jokes. We came up with a killer track that's going to be on the 5th Death Dealer album. And we should do it again because, I mean, can you imagine if Judas Priest said, hey, we're going to do a live stream and we're going to work on some new songs? I'd watch that for 12 straight hours, you know?
Sure, man.
So I thought it was a cool idea. And we should probably do it again because it was, you know, it was fun. And creative, and that's just kind of how we do it. We just trade ideas, and Stu's, really good at coming up with stuff, and I come up with a lot of stuff too. I'll record a full verse, chorus, pre-chorus of vocals and send it over, and with an idea for some guitar. So I did that with Hank Sherman too. Like the song Masters of Evil, Pentagram of the Cross, those were all me, from the start. So that was cool, and I look forward to doing that again. So I think people really liked it.
Yeah, very cool. One of my other favorite things about the album, other than the music that's on there, is the Egyptian that themed 3D lenticular print cover art that you did, not just for the record, but obviously for each track as well. I read it was on each track. You have it, which is also, he was done by Dusan Markovic, I know he's worked with you in the past with the 3 Tremors record. And
he's a whore. He fucking does anybody now. He's a fucking whore. Dusan, if you're listening, stop doing everyone's artwork.
Well, the thing is, anyone who's interested in it, I mean, they should go to his website and check out, not just about the designs that he's got, but really just he goes through the process of how he really works his magic on there. It's really cool, and it's amazing what he can do without those 3D effects and all the photo manipulation. So, talk a bit about your collaborative efforts with him, and when it comes to putting together ideas and concepts for the record, what exactly were you guys going for with the artwork for Conquered Lands?
Well, the number one, if you want a wolf, there's no wolves on this one, but if you want a wolf, he's the fucking king of wolves, man. No one beats this dude's wolf. If you want a fucking warrior with a fucking sword behind in front of a castle, like, this is your guy. What I like to do I'm a comic book guy, so I've been collecting comics for fucking years, and I'm really particular on my artwork. I'm like, some artwork people, you can see the walls in here, just all comic book art and shit.
Right.
And what I like to do with Dusan is get him to do shit that he is out of his, like, he doesn't do a lot of. So okay. I didn't really remember him doing any Egyptian shit. And so I got with him and we talked about the basic concepts, and then I go, okay, well, we got to make the dude look fucking crazy, not just a fucking pharaoh with a skull face. And so we came up with this really unique looking, vibe to the main guy. People, man, I knew the album cover was killer, but I didn't know the reaction would be this good. People fucking love this album cover, and the shirt, all the merch looks incredible. And it's like the shirts and all the shit we made with it. The vinyl's like just awesome. What we're with this whole Steel Cartel thing is we're going with like I coined the phrase, we're the kings of the physical medium. I stole a line from Stan Lee from Marvel Comics. He says, I'll say, heavy metal is like a nice pair of tits. It's much better when you're holding it in your hands instead of looking at it on the internet. Right?
I like that. Yeah.
And so, and that's the other thing we're doing. We're taking a stand against Spotify. Only 3 songs of this album are going to be on Spotify or any of the streaming services. And the songs that are going to be on there are the songs we're releasing as videos. And not only that, we've been giving the songs out free as an MP3. We put out the video. We give people that are on the email list the MP3 because they can hear it online anyways. Mm-hmm. So why not give them the fucking song to put in their phone or whatever? And but if you want to hear the rest of this fucking kick-ass album, you got to support the band and pick up a copy. Spend fucking $15 and support metal and buy it. And a lot of the journalists and the fans, the pre-orders have been fantastic at deathdealermetal.com, and they've been supporting the concept. All these people bitch about Spotify we don't make any money, and then they don't do anything about it. Friday release date comes and their fucking album is up there for free. Everyone just pushes a button like, why do I gotta buy it? I just heard the whole fucking album for free. Like, fucking thanks, Spotify and YouTube. So that makes zero fucking sense to me. I'm 53 years old. I'm far past the do it for exposure. I'm past the exposure stage, man. So it's been great, man. And not only do we make these killer packages within, our product fucking is better a higher quality and better looking than all the major labels. I'll put our shit up against anybody's shit. And the prices for the stuff is like 2/3 of what all the other major labels have. The prices are fucking incredible. People, I put the price up, like I raised it $5. I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, fuck all this for only, it's like $45 for the whole package with the CD or something. So real good value for the metalheads, and the pre-orders have been great. And that's our business model. And, we've got 3 or 4 more releases from my own shit next year, and it's going to be all the same. It's going to look killer, and it's going to be a great value.
Awesome, man. Yeah, that sounds great, man. One of the interesting things too, just going back to the inception of Death Dealer, is that you guys initially started out as an online collaboration between you and Stu. Obviously he's in Australia, you're in San Diego, and now here it is almost a decade later, and now you got this big time power metal supergroup with you. You got Ross, Steve, and Mike. It's just a massive lineup. Take us back a bit to when you and Stu first started to plant the seeds for Death Dealer and the initial collaborations. Did you have ambitions for it to become what it is now, or did that just sort of all kind of take on a life of its own to become what it is today with, all that sizable talent you have in the band that exists?
Well, it was, this one of my old publicists hooked me up with Stu. Stu was like a fan of Cage. Stu was doing his Empires of Eden stuff, which was like a bunch of guest singers, like everybody you can imagine. He had just left Dungeon, and we did a song called Total Devastation, which we put on Hallowed Ground. And it was, of course, it was the best song on the fucking album. I was on it, right? So, of course, it's going to be the best fucking song. So, and he liked working with me, like, let's do another song. And I'm like, okay. And at that time, I was like, look, I get everything I need out of Cage. I don't need to be in any other bands. This is fully satisfying. And then, we were on Skype one night. He called me up on Skype, and we were having a couple drinks. Like, mate, we got to start a band called Death Dealer. And I'm like, dude, that name's got to be taken. What are you, fucking crazy? And he's like, no, dude, there was a Death Dealer in Canada, and they're not doing shit. So I punched up the trademark research, and the trademark was available. I'm like, holy shit. And so we were just like joking, like, well, who could we get? We need to surround ourselves with as many famous people as we can. Like, it was like KK Downing. And we're like, fuck, okay. I'm like, yeah, I'll reach out to him. Like, there's no way he's going to fucking do it. But who else? And Stu's like, he's a huge Manowar fan. Like, Ross the Boss. I'm like, well, I talked to Ross, online. So, yeah, maybe. At first, it was like, what drummer can we get? And we go, oh, let's get Rhino from Manowar. So as we're fucking around, like making a fantasy football lineup of a metal band, I messaged Rhino and go, dude, we're doing this band and we need a drummer. And he's like, okay, yeah, I'm in. I was like, oh, fuck. And then we're like, well, what bass player, like, would anybody even give a fuck about? Like, a bass player's, again, like, no one gives a fuck. And we go, well, what about Mike Davis? Halford and fucking, Lizzie Borden. He's right there in LA. And so I messaged Mike right there. I go, fuck it, let me hit him up. And he's like, yeah, dude, I'll do it. And so me and Stu were just laughing. We're just like literally in real time asking people to be in our band. And then I messaged Ross and I go, Rhino's in it, and Mike Davis from Halford, and Ross is like, I'm in. And then me and Stu are just like, holy shit, dude. We have this freaking Facebook Messenger band. Well, I guess we need to write some songs. And then we wrote some songs. Everybody flew out to my pad. We played like 4 shows, like Mexico, LA. We made 3 shows, maybe Mexico, LA, and San Diego. Had a great time. Crowd loved it. And then like a few months later, we did 10 arena shows. Like, skip to the front of the line.
Wow.
Opening for the Metal All-Stars. And that video we just put out, Running with the Wolves, has footage from there where it was just, fucking 5 or 10,000 every night going off, and no one knew who the fuck we were at all. But they loved it, man. They just went ape shit. And so we were just like, dude, this is working. We're playing this shit cold, and they love it. And then we did another headlining tour in Europe, and then everyone got busy doing their own shit. And then now we came back around to finish this 3rd record, and so we're all geeked up about Death Dealer, because not only do we have Conquered Lands, but we got 2 more. So, we're just like everybody else, ready to put this battle station into operation live one day.
Does that mean that I'm going to have to wait another 5 years for another Cage record?
No, dude. I told you the Cage is.
Well, you said it's fun, but you're in Death Dealer mode.
No, I mean the Cage is coming out next year for sure. We're working on Cage every fucking night. I was just over at Conan's house and we were talking about the 15 tracks, how to make them better and inject more heavy metal steroids into those tracks, like I like to say. So yeah, there's a Cage. We got to make sure the Cage is good though. Like I was nervous about the last record and everybody loved it, but so we got some really good shit though. So it's looking good for the Cage, but definitely 2021 Cage 100%.
Dude, if you were worried about Ancient Evil, you worry about Nonsense because that record fucking slams.
Yeah, I know, man. I was just like, now I'm like, I don't know, man. I think maybe this is going to take time to grow on people. And all the reviews were coming out killer. I'm like, fuck, man. They were liking this out of the gate. That was the one. I was totally confident about all the other Cage records. And that was the one I was like, yeah, this could be the one. And yeah, so we have a killer track record of well-received albums with Cage.
No question.
Yeah.
Well, Sean, one of the things, I mean, it's no secret you sing in like 930,000 projects and bands. It seems like every time I turn around, you're singing on something. And as well as I do, a lot of your contemporaries that started out as singers sound like shit now. They just sound bad. And you still have every bit the power you had when you started, or at least when you started nationally. Why is it that what don't they know that that you've been able to keep the voice right?
It's all that pussy I've been eating. I told you, just like the rock star. You just got to keep eating that pussy.
That's the trick, I guess. Okay.
Ask a dumb question, get a dumb answer.
Do you have any tips for singers? I the thing to me is like none of the fucking throat sprays and the fucking lozenges and all that shit. None of that ever touches your vocal cords, and none of it does a goddamn thing. Like it's all a mind game, man. And so I just learned, because I've had to sing through the last Tremor show. Like I pulled a rib like 4th song in, felt like someone shot me in the in the side of my body with a shotgun. I was just like, I thought my appendix burst or something. So I've been through like completely adverse scenarios, live. And so I learned, like, dude, no matter how fucked up you're on tour, your voice is fucked, whatever, just go out there and just go for it. And it's not going to be perfect. Just, don't freaking overthink it. And whatever's going to come out comes out. Some of it might sound like shit, but there'll probably be enough good moments where, it'll be good enough that you'll make the crowd happy. So my recommendations to people is like, all I do is sleep and water, and that's all you need. All this other fucking shit is a joke. Now, one thing that we always talk about that's interesting is like, so the 3 Tremors, Harry and me, and let's see, Ripper, me, Harry, Halford, Dio, all of us have one thing in common, is as we don't warm up.
Okay.
Everyone's got to do whatever works for them, but I hate sound check. I don't like going up there and revving up the jet engines and then, revving them down and then getting them back up. So I don't even barely fucking sing at sound check at all. And I like just going out there and blasting it. And David Draymond was talking to Ronnie James Dio, and he said, Ronnie, what do you do to warm up? And Ronnie James Dio told David Draymond, David, if you have to warm up, you really don't have it, do you?
Good point, man.
So you gotta do, there's things that I can do better now than 5 years ago, and there's some things that I can't do as good as I could 5 years ago. So the voice is always changing, and but I'm able to. I got a couple new technique. I went through a rough patch probably from like 3 years ago, man, and my voice was kind of in a flux, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? I went to the voice doctor, and like, yeah, you're fine, but the voice doctor I go to is like, does the opera people here and shit, and he's like, the voices don't last forever, and I'm like, Doc, I don't want to hear that shit. I'm not coming to you to have you tell me the fucking voices don't last forever. Like, you're not helping the situation.
Right.
And I just figured it out and kind of, got in, changed up the techniques a little bit. And so far, so good, man. I've been doing a lot of singing. Singing in the studio is different than singing live. And we had our first band practice with Cage a while ago, like last week, and fuck, it was great to get in the room and we're all jamming and we're like, yeah, sounds great. We're like, we don't know what the fuck we're gonna do with us sounding great live, but hey, we're here and having fun at least. So yeah, man, the voice is a tricky thing, and so far I'm able to keep doing the frickin' screaming heavy metal that I need to do to make it a Sean Peck experience.
No doubt. And if the voice ever does go, you've got Tony Webster waiting in the wings to take your spot, man.
Tony, yes, he can sing. I don't know if he can quite hit. I don't know if he can quite hit some of the notes that we're talking about, but I love Tony. Me and him go back and forth on the Chargers all the time.
I know. I see it all the time on Facebook. He's a good friend of mine too, and I see it all the time with you two just throwing barbs at each other. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I just did a Charger video. I think I got a new gig of doing these videos like right after the game. It's pretty funny. Check it out on YouTube Steel Cartel channel. I amused myself at least.
Very cool, man.
Awesome.
Well, Sean, obviously, man, the project right now, even though you're past it, the rest of us are still stuck on it. It's Conquered Lands. It's brand new Death Dealer. It is a fantastic record. If you like power metal, it'll be in your player for the next year. So go get it.
It's got a little bit of everything though. It's got the thrash, the power, the painkiller stuff, the mid-tempo headbangers. Now, before we go, I wanted to talk about the ballad on this record though.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, yeah.
The ballad 22 Gone. Now, most ballads are the ones you just skip and you're like, and you just fucking skip the thing. But man, all the press it's called 22 Gone. It's about 22 American soldiers commit suicide every day, supposedly it's a statistic, which was like fucking mind blowing to even think about that. So Stu sent me this acoustical piece, and I'm like, what is the most depressing thing? I've never written a depressing song. Sure. And I, like this will be a fun challenge. Let's write a song that'll have people hanging themselves from a ceiling fan by the time it's over. And yeah, Ross loves it, and he calls it the most depressing song in heavy metal history. So I'm pretty proud of the ballad, and all the reviews have been talking about the ballad too. So I mean, it's you've got a killer album when people like the ballad on the fucking album.
That's a good point. Yeah,
we got something working for Conquered Lands. DeathDealerMetal.com, DeathDealerMetal.com. Support heavy metal.
Absolutely, man.
Awesome.
Well, dude, thanks so much for coming on once again, and we're going to talk to your compadre here in like 5 minutes. He's gonna jump on and talk, Ross. So good stuff, man. And obviously the door's open whenever we get Cage or Tremors, or if Warrior ever does something and you happen to be in front of it.
Those fucking guys, Jesus! Did you see? I talked to. AC, I go, dude, let's just do an EP. And then Joe Floyd, let's do an EP. And we're ready to do it. We already had some songs we worked on back when I was with them. And then like 2 days later, like, oh yeah, Perry, the singer, he wants to do the EP with us. I'm like, all right, you haven't done anything for fucking 15 years. I get you off your ass to do an EP. And now Perry wants to. I'm like, that's cool because that's what the fans are. They're gonna want him anyways. I totally get it. And then that was like fucking 6 months ago. They got nothing. They don't put out a post on Facebook. Nothing. Those guys, I love them, but they're fucking lazy and they can't write put a riff on a recording. So don't hold your breath for the Warrior thing. If I was in charge, we'd have like 2 albums done by now. But we'll see when the Warrior, and we posted that, and like there was like 1,000 people going, fuck yeah, Warrior. People were so pumped on it. Nice. And now there's nothing. So all right, good talking to you guys. I'll let Rob come in.
All right, thanks, Sean. Take care, buddy. Thanks a lot.
All right.
There we go. All right, there it is, Mr. Sean Peck.
That was fun.
That was a lot of fun. Oh yeah.
Sean's good people, man. He's He didn't know. It's funny. He didn't know that I knew Tony Webster, and he didn't want to shit on him because he's his friend.
His friend. Oh no, that was very entertaining. You said when you're talking about Warrior, is that the Warrior, the LA Warrior? Oh wow, okay. So
Sean, they announced that he was going to be the singer. Okay. And like he said, they announced that on Facebook or something that they were going to do an EP, and it was like, fuck yeah,
Wow, that'd been great, yeah.
And Warrior's done stuff with other singers that's been good. They did a record with Mark Starachi that was really good from the Crocus guy.
The Crocus, yeah.
And so then when you bring in, no offense to Mark Starachi, but he doesn't have the power pipes that Sean does.
Yeah, I
was like, holy shit, Joe Floyd and Sean Peck, that's gonna fucking rule.
Great combo, yeah.
And like you said, nothing.
Wow.
It just went nowhere. But
yeah.
And that's me poking the bear.
Oh yeah. That's what you do best, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, and then obviously we've got just for our listeners, our next and final guest we should be here shortly. Ross the Boss Friedman, of course. Everyone knows who he is.
Yes.
I don't think there's any introductions that need to be made for him.
Yeah.
And I mean, he speaking of Ross the Boss, I mean, just to step off of Death Dealer for a second, his album that he put out back in March, right when the pandemic was coming out, that's one of my favorite metal albums of the year.
That's a great record.
That's a great record. I mean, I love that record. That's Denied by the Cross. That's like one of my favorite songs of the year. I love that song. So he's been real busy. Obviously, that's got to be difficult when you got two records, and probably there's probably the two best records of each one of those bands, Death Dealer and Ross the Boss, and it's out during the pandemic. You can't tour for it.
Yeah,
sucks. It really sucks. Yeah, but what are you gonna do?
Ross,
right?
Ross's solo music has been awesome.
Yeah, it is.
All four of those albums are really
good,
strong. Like the Hailstorm album from
the first one, right? Is that
the second one?
Okay.
The first one was New Metal Leader.
No, that's right. Okay,
the first one, and then the second one was Hailstorm. But I mean, Ross has killer riffs for days because obviously he's doing this Death Dealer thing too, and it's a guitar record if ever there was a guitar record.
Oh, yeah.
And same with Born of Fire. Born of Fire is an amazingly, if you like guitars, it's worth listening to.
It's phenomenal. Yeah. Mark Lopez, the singer, is great on that. And that record, it's just got a little bit of everything. That's what I love about it. It's got your progressive stuff. It's got your straight, sort of thrashy stuff. Got your sort of classic metal sounding stuff, almost some 80s sounding stuff. I mean, it's just all over the place. It's great. Yeah. Great record.
Where does Mark Lopez come from?
I don't know if he's from any big band at all. I know he's from I forget the name of the band. I mean, it's on the tip of my tongue, but nothing. I don't think that's like major. I mean, that's what I'm saying. He's just a good find. Just a I think I love his vocals because it's just a lot of the power metal vocal. Like Sean's vocals. It's pretty straight and narrow. You know what you're getting. It's the high end. Sort of Rob Halford sort of vocals, whereas Mark's like all over the place. He can hit those notes, but he doesn't do it throughout all the throughout the whole songs. Every song he does it in pieces and parts, and that's what I love about it. He can mix it up a little bit, which is great.
Well, and that's the change up for Ross probably between Death Dealer and his solo stuff is that it is different. It's weird because musically you could probably interchange many of the songs. But vocally, it's there's no comparing the two records because Mark and Sean are so different, that there's really no comparison of the two bands.
Yeah. No, they're completely different. Yeah, like you said. And, I mean, and what's interesting too, and I want to ask him when it comes on, too, is, Ross started out as a punk guy. He was a punk rocker, with the Dictators, which was a real, big band back in the 70s there out in New York. And, to go from that type of, because, especially, punk rockers, to go from that kind of music to full on shredding metal, that when he went over to Manowar,
Mm-hmm.
that's like unheard of. You know what I mean? It does not happen. You know, it's usually, I mean, punk rockers, usually don't even like metal. It's especially in New York. I mean, it's a complete, it's almost like sacrilegious if you like punk and metal, if you're like a real punk rock musician. It just doesn't happen very often. So it was just really, real interesting, just his career is just really interesting, going from that to that. And speaking of that,
there he is.
Well, speaking of him, let's bring him right in.
All right.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Ross.
What's going on, Ross?
What's happening?
Good to talk to you once again, man. Welcome to Aftershocks.
Nice to be here. Great.
Excellent. Well, Ross, we just talked to Sean like 5 minutes ago, and he of course has plenty to say about everything. And one of the things he was telling us that we weren't aware of was that you guys we're going to talk Conquered Lands, but obviously there's a lot more going on in the Death Dealer camp than just Conquered Lands, man. So talk a little bit about, where you're at with all this music that you guys are working on for this project or for this band.
Yeah, it's a pretty good situation. I mean, we had the third album hanging around for a while, and we wanted to obviously finish it. And when the shit show hit, everybody had time. No one was, everybody's doing the same thing, which is pretty much sitting on their asses. And instead of sitting on our asses, we had ideas, and Sean and Stu really started pumping out a lot of songs. And so I'm recording right now Death Dealer 4. Right.
Yeah, he was telling us, yeah.
Not only Death Dealer 4, we have enough for Death Dealer 5.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
It's a good situation. So, I mean, and Death Dealer 4 is fantastic. So,
well, Death Dealer 3 is fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like you made a shitty record with Death Dealer 3. Conquered Lands is awesome, man. I have to ask you, man, as a guitar player and as somebody that has really put out quality guitar riffs and leads, especially in the last few years. We were just talking earlier right before you came on about how much we loved Born of Fire.
Yeah.
And that's such a quality record from you. And then you come right back with Conquered Lands. You got a lot going on in your playing. It's almost like something kicked in that really has revitalized you as a player.
Well, sure. I mean, Born of Fire is my fourth record for AFM.
Right.
And, we did By Bloodsworn last year. And Born of Fire was March 6th. And we didn't get to tour on that. Yeah. We haven't toured on that yet. So,
right.
So when the green light is given, and we don't know when it's going to be given, we're going to have Born of Fire is going to be ready to be toured on as a new record. Death Dealer 3 and 4 we're going to tour on, and it just seems to me that I just work. I'm constantly working. If you hear all this noise here, I'm at my batting cage.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm here 7 days a week, and I'm multitasking now. And music is. I'll record tonight at my studio with my partner. I mean, there's just nothing I won't do. I mean, I don't take any time off, and
sure.
I think that's. And not only that, I'm recording with the Dictators again.
Oh wow!
The Dictators will be touring too.
Oh wow, crazy. Okay, very cool. You're a busy man.
Yeah,
still.
It's a great thing, So
yeah,
I've been putting out a lot of stuff, and but it's only going to come out if it's good. I mean, really good, and. I'm excited. I'm excited about Conquered Lands. It's great artwork, great packaging. The videos are fantastic, and the songs are great. So when you have all that, it all starts with the songs for me, anyway. So
right,
yeah. Well, speaking of songs, I mean, the song I really like, Ross, on the record is the one you guys just did a video for. Called Running with the Wolves. It's just got that really good old fashioned, hard rock, classic metal sort of sound. And I read a statement you made about the new record, where you stated that people can use this uplifting rock and roll to put some positive energy back in their lives. And I love that, because I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, that's what I think all of us need more than anything right now, is a little positive energy. And it seems like, so many well-known like hard rock and metal, musicians just, they won't shut up about whether it's politics, or whatever it is. They're just putting up, a lot of them put out a lot of negative energy. When listeners and fans, we look to, obviously, you guys, musicians, most of us go to music as an escape from all the seriousness, of daily life and everything. But at the same time, I understand the frustrations, because, like you said, your guys' livelihoods have been derailed, just as much as anybody's. For you personally, though, I mean, how difficult is it to write uplifting music right now at a time like this, especially where, there's still no light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to obviously getting back out there and playing, live music?
It is, you know what? It is a bit depressing. I can tell you that. I mean, a lot of people are out of jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And crews, press, merchandisers, venues are closing. It's a tough time for everybody. And I thank God I have my business here. That I've been working at continually for 16 years. Mm-hmm. And people go to me, "You're a pretty smart guy, man."
Oh yeah.
But sports is something I love as well. So, I feel blessed, and to write songs, positive songs, and heavy metal has its, it has its
sure, mm-hmm.
Heavy metal.
Yeah. Sure.
Isms.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the word. Isms. We try to put positive vibes in back in the world. That's just the way we are. We want our fans to enjoy our music and just take a load off and no, man.
Sure.
Have drinks.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the interesting too about Death Dealer, and your Roast to Boss band, is that 3/5 of the band of Death Dealer makes up the same, 3/5 of it's the same lineup as you had from Born on Fire, with Steve and Mike LaPond, in the band as well. So for a guy like yourself, you've been obviously in several bands, over the years, throughout your whole career. You've worked with so many different talented artists, especially at this stage in your career. How important is it to have that stability of working with some of the same members within your projects, instead of, venturing out and playing with a variety of musicians, which is something I know you've obviously definitely done as well throughout your career?
Well, I've always said I want to play with my friends. I'll always play with my friends. It's a great thing to play with people that you know. I say that about everyone, including Manowar, by the way. And Joey and I had have our differences, but it doesn't mean that with a good sit-down meeting, things couldn't get resolved. And but that being said, I don't think that's going to happen. But I've always said I'll play with my friends, and having Mike and Steve in Death Dealer is great. And Stu is a great buddy of mine. We've been friends for a while now, and Sean. So we have a great relationship, and it's cool to be able to count on people, when you have to go out and do things.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right. Well,
it's a certain comfort level.
Sure.
Sure.
It is. Ross, I want to go back to, you mentioned about your batting cages, and I own one of the largest pinball places in the country. So yeah, there you go.
Oh, nice. So
people are definitely hitting. That's good. But I'm curious for you. Obviously the music business has been torn to hell with COVID. How has that business been? Because I know my pinball place is like getting murdered because people are afraid to come in. Are you getting the same thing?
You hear all those kids crazy yelling in the background?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you hear a lot of them. Yeah,
kids, especially in New York City, they have to be active. Okay, they've been locked up for 3 months, and it's the worst thing that's ever been done to them because they deserve to be locked down. Okay, these kids they're growing up, these young kids, they have to come out, they have to have socialization with their friends, they have to play baseball, especially most of these kids are Black and Latino. And, they need to play baseball. You know, we have a lot of organizations here that are doing that. No one's taking no for an example. For no one's taking no. This place, the Cage, we have 12 teams.
Okay.
We have our own 12. We have our own in-house Cage Warriors, and Cage Warriors, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, all ages from 6 to 18, and you know they travel around. We just had our college showcase. We had 7 universities come to our showcase, and a lot of our young men got offers.
Great.
And
Oh, very
yeah,
awesome.
I mean, we're pushing the envelope. We want this whole thing to continue. We don't care about it. I mean, we're mindful of our masks and everything here, totally safe and separated. But the process has to go on. These kids have to get an education, and they have to they have to play sports. They just have to play sports.
Right.
You growing up, you have to play sports.
Right. Well, and I just want to say it's really cool of you to keep the place open. As you know, a lot of places have been, because of government or just fear or whatever, have been pushed into closing their doors. And, you know, it's great that you're able to continue.
Thank God. We were closed for 3.5 months.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
A lot of money.
Mhm.
But we were able to get some pandemic insurance and stuff like that, and work the things out with my landlord. And you know, it's 10,000 square feet here, and it's a lot of rent. But we worked things out, and we're back in operation, and people are coming to us because we've been here for 16 years, and serving the community. And you know, I think this is a recession, depression proof business, because the parents will spend on their kids no matter what. They will deny themselves. They will deny themselves food,
right,
to give their kids an opportunity. Because especially a lot of these kids, you know, they want to play major league, they want to play in college, they want to, you know, somehow be professional. You know, that's always the, you know, how, you know, the chances of that happening, you know, are very slight, but that's their dream.
Sure.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
have dreams is good as a young kid.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I had my dreams.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, like you said, New York's a baseball town. It really is.
Huh?
You know, I said New York is a baseball town. Growing up there myself, everyone loves it. You know,
but it's a town that's been destroyed.
Well, it's been destroyed, though. Absolutely. Yeah. Obviously, more than probably any city right now in the States. I would agree. Yeah.
And we're going to fight. These kids are going to be playing our leagues. Other organizations have like rented this place. Like, oh my God, you know, it's for months straight now. So it's a good situation.
Yeah.
So,
no. Yeah. Definitely. Well, speaking of, you know, the dictators in New York there, you know, we were, you know, me and Chris, you were talking right before you came on. You know, I think one of the more interesting things about your career, Ross, is that, you know, it's so really unconventional in terms of how you started out playing with punk rock with the Dictators, and then you went on, you know, full speed metal, you know, with Manowar, and became a guitar shredder, you know. And it's often where you don't really see that, you know, often that kind of transformation, especially, you know, like I said, New York. I know, you know, growing up there, I mean, punk rockers, most of them fucking hate metal. I mean, they hate it, you know what I mean? So that's very unconventional what you did. How did you make that transformation back in the day?
well, you know, the Dictators were always considered too metal for the punk and too punk for metal.
Right.
It was kind of like punk metal, you know, because of me, you know, because I had, you know, the heavy guitar player in the band, James Hetfield, said, you know, Ross, you know, obviously in a punk band, but you're a heavy guitar player. And I just like, yeah, I mean, my influences were blues and Led Zeppelin and Hendrix and Sabbath and, you know, all that stuff growing up. And so, you know, that's the deal. I mean, you know, I was always a heavy guy, you know, so making that transition was never hard, you know. And I keep doing it. I do Dictators, you know, RTB band, you know. I just did a track for Die Krups.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
No More Heroes by the Stranglers, and
Wow.
you know, which was fantastic. Really came out great. And I'm just, you know, I can play anything. You know, I'm learning myself mandolin. You know, I love it. I'm trying to learn something new every day. And before I go to bed, I'm always playing. Tonight I'm going to be recording a Death Dealer solo.
Yeah.
Busy.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, you were just talking, obviously this has been obviously a very challenging year. What, you've had to go through obviously professional, on a professional level and a musician, obviously with your business as an entrepreneur. I mean, how cathartic is it for you personally to be able to continue to write, and create and release new music? And are you noticing anything, different when it comes to your playing in terms of like, sort of your creative juices? You feel like they're being enhanced a bit right now, because of all the shit that's going on?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm all I'm thinking about is music at this place. I mean,
sure.
All I'm thinking about is music and what I have to do. But
Right.
it's a tough time. It really is, and I'm not one of these guys just to give into the depression, give into the your record came out March 6th, but it just came out at just the wrong time. Oh, I've got such bad luck. Oh, my luck is so bad. I'm not saying that. I'm just not. I'm not gonna play that game.
Sure.
I'm lucky to make a record.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally get it. I mean, do you just want, I just got one more quick question before we wrap it up, Ross. I mean, do you feel like with both bands now, when you got, Ross the Boss Band, you got Death Dealer, that you now have those creative outlets where, obviously you're still in Dictators, you're still going to tour with them. Do you have those creative outlets where you're able to stay focused, on both? And does it satisfy your, creative needs, or do you always need to maybe have to do something new in order to fill those needs, those creative needs that you do have?
It's 50 of us. All right, hold on. Yeah,
Sure.
I'm planning to make a blues record.
Oh, wow. Okay.
One day.
Okay.
Very cool.
One day, guys.
Cool.
Very cool.
I'm charging someone on my Square reader. Hold on.
Okay. Multitasking, as they say.
There you go. He's definitely multitasking.
Yeah.
It's a great thing to be able to, play and entertain people. And what can I say? Watch the bats, son.
And where exactly is your batting cage at, Ross? It's in Queens, right?
Middle Village, Queens.
Middle Village. Okay, sure. Yeah.
Very cool.
All right. Very cool. All right, man. Well, like I said, I see you got a lot going on here. Really appreciate you coming on. For all the listeners out there, go ahead and pick up a copy of, the new Death Dealer record. Check it out. Do you have anything you want to plug while you're on here, Ross, before we wrap it up?
Thank you, my brother. You're welcome. See you guys. So much. God bless. Okay. See you. Death Dealer is releasing this record November 13th. It's a fantastic record. We're releasing 3 songs to digital media platforms, and so we won't let Spotify steal our whole record.
Awesome.
Good.
We're going to if you want the rest, you got to buy it.
Good.
And folks, you got to support the band by actually buying stuff. We have great merchandise, great product, great artwork. I saw some of the stuff that Sean had. It looked fantastic. You can see by the artwork is great.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Dusan Markovic is an amazing artist. The song, it's a killer package. Great band. And what can I say?
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, awesome. Well, thanks. I appreciate you taking time on your busy schedule there, Ross, to come on and talk with us. And good luck with everything, man. And also, like we were saying, Bona Fire, great record. Can't wait to see you play that stuff live.
You got it. The whole deal.
Yeah.
All right, Ross.
All right. Take care, man.
All right. Well, there you go.
All right. Well, Ross obviously was a little preoccupied.
He's a little busy, but
is running daily operations at his business
Hey.
doing an interview. But hey, like you said, that's a professional for you right there, right?
you know what? Fine.
Yeah.
Because at least he's not sitting in an empty building, not doing business.
Yep. Absolutely.
Fine with me.
Oh,
Came on. He talked a little bit about Conquered Lands,
Absolutely.
and he's making money.
Yeah. Good for him. That's how you do it, right? Yep.
Yep.
I agree. Yep.
I'm all about it, man.
Sure. Yeah. No doubt. All right. Well, great. Well, that wraps up the guests we have for tonight.
Yeah.
And What are we in here? We're about an hour and a half sort of in there.
We're good. How about
We're
that?
good. We're feeling
good.
tired as hell, just like everyone else is, obviously, today. This is
we stayed up watching that nonsense last night, just like the rest of you.
Just like the rest of you. Yeah. And thanks to everyone out there watching. You guys, I hope we give you a break from all the shit on the news and everything right now. Just at least for a little bit before you go back to having anxiety and stress again.
We purposely stayed away from the politics tonight.
Well, we purposely stay away from politics in general. Yeah. That's sort of our model here. And, we've obviously, just like everyone else, have our own opinions, but this isn't what this is for, right? This is to get away from that shit. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, awesome. Well, before we go, why don't you tell people about the next one in 2 weeks, since that one is primarily yours. So why don't you tell people what's coming up?
Well, yeah. So we got 2 weeks on the 18th. Our main guest is going to be original Cro-Mags guitarist Paris Mayu. Paris Mayu is he's got a new he put out a new single. Obviously, sort of I guess what Byron Nemeth was telling us about today. He's doing, I think, the same sort of thing. Right. He's got a new single out. It's a video. It is instrumental, which is very interesting. But it's got that classic Cro-Mag sound. So if you like that old crossover Cro-Mag stuff, you got to like that stuff. So Paris Mayu is not a guy who does a lot of interviews. If you know the Cro-Mags, it's always the other two guys. And so having him on is going to be real fun. He's a good interview too. He likes to talk, so it'll be a good one. We also got before that, we've got Brian Mitz Daniels. He is the former guitarist from Madball, another New York hardcore band. So it's going to be a bit of a hardcore themed show.
Awesome. And
we haven't gotten official word yet if he's confirmed, but we're looking to get also another big New York hardcore band who just came out with a really good EP, the band Sub-Zero. They were, like I said, big time band in the 90s, New York hardcore band. So it's going to be a New York hardcore sort of themed show, a little bit different than we've done. So we figured when we got Paris on, it was like, well, we might as well go ahead and get a couple of other veterans that are in the hardcore scene on too, since we haven't really done any of that on Tremors yet. So yeah, this will be the first for that. And so it should be a good one. Yeah.
Can't wait, man. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun, but awesome, man. Well, thanks, thanks to everyone, like I said, who's watched us tonight. And like I said, go get some rest and have a drink or two or three or four. I think we all need it right now after, like I said, we're going through with this shit. But yeah, anything else you got to close, Chris?
Yeah, simple. Don't panic. Just listen to metal. Put metal on in your car. Put metal on in your house. Coffee, beer, wine, booze, and metal. That should be your mantra right now.
Exactly.
Not Fox News, not CNN. Metal.
Yep.
It'll make your day better. It's like, just real quick this morning, I got up and, every bit of me was like, all right, let me check and see what happened.
Yeah.
Let me check and see. And I went to start doing it. And I was like, you know what? Fuck that. I went and I just put on my headphones and I threw on some really heavy metal and I just blasted the urge. And to be honest, I had a great day. Unlike most people that were on social media complaining and whining and bitching about everything, I had a perfectly great day because I just listened to metal all day and watched some old Sons of Anarchy reruns and was like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
I avoided it for the day.
Yeah, good for you, man. I did the same. Well, I had to work, but so I had to avoid it. I had no choice for half of the day, but it was one of those things. Yeah, I already had a headache waking up, and I said, no, we got the show tonight, and I'm not going to put myself into that mindset. Like you said, go put on music. It always does. It always does justice, man. It always takes away, all the shit. And that's what we said. This is what we looked at music for, right? Just to get it. The escape from that shit.
Exactly.
So yeah. So yeah. That's about it. That's all I got to say.
Good. Well, let's get the fuck out of here.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks, November 18th.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to Aftershocks. For more episodes, go to our website at www.aftershockspodcast.com. Visit us on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages for more news and information on the podcast. And be sure to subscribe, listen to, and review all episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all other podcast platforms. For your music listening pleasure, visit our website or go to www.shockwavesradio.com for all comments and questions. Please email us at info@aftershockspodcast.com.